Let me hit you with a simple truth. If you can't trust your time, you can't trust your evidence. And if you can't trust your evidence, you can't prove innocence, identify wrongdoing, or even understand what happened on your own network. Time doesn't wait for anyone, and in cybersecurity, it doesn't forgive anyone either. That's why today we're looking at an ISO 27001 control that seems tiny, almost trivial, but in reality, it's one of the foundations that makes all your other controls work. This is Annex A 8.17 clock synchronization. And without it, your logging, your monitoring, your investigations, well, they all fall apart. You see, they say that time waits for no one, and that's what this particular control is here to ensure. On initial glance, it can seem to be a simple control, and you might be confused why this control is even needed. However, its primary purpose is actually hidden amongst other ISO 27001 controls. But let's take a look for a second at what this control actually states. Well, it requires that the clocks of information processing systems used by the organization shall be synchronized to approved time sources. You see, you've already learned how important logging is under Annex A 8.15 and monitoring under Annex A 8.16, but here's the catch. If two systems disagree about the time, even by just a few minutes, your entire incident timeline can become a jigsaw puzzle with pieces from different boxes. It doesn't matter what you're logging, doesn't matter if someone's monitoring it. If the times don't add up, then nothing's in line and it all becomes pointless. Ask yourself, did someone export data at 2 a.m. or was it actually 2 p.m.? Did an alert happen before an incident or after? Was a door unlocked at the right time or hours earlier? Did the supplier access your systems inside approved hours or outside them? Without synchronized clocks, your evidence is no longer evidence. It's pure speculation. So as ever, let's have some examples to try and bring this to life. Imagine you've scheduled some backups for midnight. The systems show that they run. Fantastic. Well done. But another systems state that they ran at 11:50 p.m. and another shows that they started at 1:10 a.m. Which one's right? And if your backup fails or if data is lost, you now have no reliable record. So what happens to your recovery point objective? Basically, clock drift equals chaos. Or how about under ISO 27001 access control, which is Annex A 5.15, you may block external support access from, say, 10 p.m. of an evening till 6 a.m. Fantastic. But if your supplier system is on a different time source and your server is on another and your firewall is on another, you might accidentally allow access when you shouldn't or deny access when you should. Time becomes a weak point, not a safeguard. Or how about the security incident that occurs involving staff in another time zone? You need to establish exactly when an event actually happened. If your systems aren't synchronized, you can't prove innocence or guilt or even define the sequence of events. In legal investigations, inaccurate timestamps can collapse an entire case. So the reality is that this isn't just a technical detail, it's a trust detail. Forensic investigations, SIEM alerts, access control, patching, backups, physical security, they all rely on one thing, the truth of time. And time must be consistent, accurate, and accountable. So what will the auditor be looking for in this particular control? Well, a good auditor, again, will expect to see clear, consistent, provable time management across your systems. They're not just looking for a single policy. They're looking that you have thought about this. they'll want to see that all systems are synchronized to an approved time source. That you're using something like NTP, Network Time Protocol, or PTP, which is Precision Time Protocol. Now, getting into which is which and the importance of those is beyond the scope of this particular video. All I will say is, in the majority of time, NTP is perfectly fine. NTP is literally down to milliseconds, whereas precision time protocols is down to less than a millisecond. So depends upon your requirements, but NTP protocols is usually sufficient for most organizations. The auditor will also be looking for configuration management to make sure that the systems that you put in place, you check the clocks on them and that they are indeed all synchronizing to a single time source or an approved time source. They may also be looking for contracts, so identifying legal and contracts and supplier contracts that actually stipulate when you're going to allow people into your systems and such, and then again that your time systems are all aligned and would be able to satisfy that. These are the kinds of things we've seen in the past that auditors will look for. The auditor will be looking for evidence of a SIEM in place, security incidents, events, monitoring tools. They may be looking for IDS and IPS systems, that's intrusion detection systems, and intrusion prevention systems. Undoubtedly, as ever, the auditor is going to want to see that this kind of information is identified and discussed in management review meetings. It's on your risk registers if you find that you've got environments where there are mixed technologies and that you're not able to synchronize to approved time sources and such, that you've identified that as a risk and that you have some appropriate risk treatment plan to it. Yeah, I mean, the auditors aren't just going to be checking clocks. They're not going to come and see that you've configured your NTP or your PTP correctly. They're going to want to see that you've thought this through. They're looking for evidence that you've considered this in its entirety and that you have evidence that is trustworthy in your logging and your monitoring and such. So what do you need to do? Well, some simple actions for you. First of all, go and speak to your IT team. Ask what time sources you use. And if they don't know, that's your first red flag. Go and do some Googling, do some research on NTP, PTP if necessary, if you have that level of criticality around your data and such. But go and speak to your IT team, find out what time sources they're using. And yeah, as I said, more often than not, they will tell you that it's either NTP or PTP, but you just need to confirm it. And when you're speaking to IT, of course, you're looking at the systems and such, but also go and speak to people who have controls over different forms of access. So things like door access and interior door access and such, RFID codes, systems, that kind of thing. Go and find out about your alarms, your CCTV as well. Who's monitoring those? What about fire and motion detection and flood defenses, environmental sensors, that kind of thing? How are those configured to an agreed time source? Can you determine what that time source actually is? Identify any risks, identify any issues, any gaps. Macs, PCs, cloud services, they may all use different time sources, and document in your risk register any gaps and anomalies that you might find. And just make sure you know your exceptions. You know, ISO 27001 accepts that two time references may exist, but only if you know which they are and why. You don't need perfection, you just need clarity. Just keep this in mind that clock synchronization might seem like a small technical detail, but in cybersecurity, nothing is small, because small things can create big problems. Time is the backbone of truth. If your time is wrong, your truth is wrong. And if your truth is wrong, your entire security posture collapses. So synchronize your clocks, and you synchronize your control, your confidence, and your compliance too. And I'll leave it at that. As I've said, this is a deceptively simple control. It very squarely connects to Annex A 8.16, which is monitoring activities, and Annex A 8.15, which is about logging as well. So this is like you know, the Trinity, the Holy Trinity in this sort of area of monitoring and logging and trust of your systems. Can you rely upon them to tell you the truth? So there you are. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope that's been useful. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell button, give this a share. You'd never know who you're going to be helping, but you'll certainly be helping me. So thank you in advance. And yeah, give it a like, give me a comment. Love to hear your thoughts around this particular control. And yeah, as ever, I'm Gary from Consultants Like Us, providing compliance without complexity. Until next time, stay well, stay safe, and stay connected. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.